Hello and welcome to India Employer Forum's webinar series. For the uninitiated, India Employer Forum or IEF is a not-for-profit community, and IEF is committed to fostering discussions that drive meaningful change on the different aspects of businesses from the point of view of employers, of course, uh, which includes employment, employability, and ease of doing business in India. My name is Praveen and I'm host for you for today's webinar. I head marketing at Teamlease Services, and Teamlease is fortunate to be the knowledge partner of IEF, where we assist IEF with different expertise that we have built over a period of 2+ decades, right in terms of the industry, right in terms of research and findings and events and so on and so forth. Today's discussion is about staffing shift in the NBFC, what is now and what is next. I'm fortunate enough to have two very senior representatives from NBFC sector with me. Asit Pal, he is VP and HR from Bob Finance. So Asit, why don't you introduce yourself?
So, hi, good morning to all of you. So, I am Asit Kumar Pal. I represent a company called Bobcard. So, erstwhile we were known as Bob Financial. We are into, different financial products like credit cards, PL, and supporting housing loan and other retail asset product to Bank of Baroda. So currently we are just focusing on Bob card, and that's a credit card. And I have around 30 years of experience in human resources vertical, work across sectors. And I was also part of Bajaj, wherein we started a temporary staffing company. So I was a part of business development. I was part of operations. Then we made some valuation and wanted to sell it off to a partner. So, my experience ranges very, wide in terms of, all the other aspects of staffing, not only the operation or usability bit.
Wow,
So I
great.
think that would be brief.
Wow.
This thing.
Great. Thank you so much, Asit, for joining us today. And we have Bhagisha Jha from Mahindra Finance. She is also VP HR. And as I said, that I'm fortunate to have, vice presidents discussing the point of view from NBFC industry. So Bhagisha, why don't you also introduce yourself briefly?
Hi, I am Bhagisha Jha. I am Vice President HR. Currently, I head HR for all the non-wheels businesses of Mahindra Finance, because Mahindra Finance is known for vehicle financing, but all the new age businesses like SME loans, leasing, cards, payments, digital partnerships, all of that is what I take care of right now. And I have extensive experience as talent management, diversity, HR business partnering in my prior roles across Mahindra Group.
Wow, great. Thank you so much, Asit and Bhagisha, for joining us today. So as India is visioning to become a $35 trillion economy by India at 100, that is 2047, the key role is played by BFSI sector, which currently contributes to 13% of the India's GDP. And NBFC is two-pronged, helping India's vision of 35 trillion economy. One, on SME or MSME sector side, they're providing loans to invest and grow. And on the other side, they're providing loans to individuals for growing their own self. So effectively, both ways, consumption and consumer growth is actually impacted by NBFC. Be it infrastructure, be it auto finance, and so on and so forth. Yeah. And as we are intending to grow, our increase for credit demand is growing simultaneously. And besides, rather than saying that demand is increasing, it is actually increasing at different geographical areas, be it tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3, or smaller cities in India, right? And since an organization cannot be spread so thin across the regions, organizations are taking help from contract staffing companies And we being contract staff in the business of contract staffing, we are seeing roles in roles that are increasing, such as sales executive, field officers, collection agents, telecallers, and loan officers, so on and so forth. There's so many roles which are playing a key role of the growth of NBFC sector. What our own data says is that overall year on year, staffing industry itself has grown 15%, and NBFC plus BFSI put together has been a major contributor of this growth. Yeah. Now, if we go into talking about what are the key drivers of NBFC, or what factors are actually impacting NBFC, one is digital innovation or digital revolution, I would say, be it talking about fintech companies or UPI for that matter, right? Changing consumer behaviors. Now, what we have observed, I personally have seen that. Now people are taking a loan of maybe 100 rupees or 500 rupees. There are companies which are actually providing such kind of small micro loans, so to say. With that, by the way, there are challenges of collection, and they are actually evolving the regulatory environment of NBFC sector especially. So, from your experience, Asit and Bagisha, we would want to know that, what are these changes and how these changes are actually impacting the NBFC sector in terms of jobs, in terms of shaping up, the overall HR environment, and what are the challenges that you see, and what are the opportunities that HR has in terms of growing the sector? Yeah, Asit.
Right. So I mean, in my last 12 to 15 years, I mean, there has been a tectonic change in terms of how the financial industry has evolved over the period. So I think the key things are digitization, the way things have moved from paper to mobile, and how a mobile or a UPI has actually taken so many people into the financial inclusion, is where the revolution has started, right from a paper note to a UPI payment. So this is one part which has eased the journey. However, being such a spread and populated country like India, our second most challenge is how we have included the people who are not under financial inclusion. So people who are outside, maybe a farmer, have we included in them? And what are the challenges? Has the digital system helped us? Yes or a no? Remains a big question in today's date till now. Uh, there are host lot of compliance and regulation which has come in to support. And if you see, so these are the different parameters I'm trying to give in terms of how finance industry per se has evolved. If
Yeah.
you see every day in the newspaper, there is one or the other, cyber fraud. You see, some 30 lakhs gone, 3 crores gone from famous actor, this and that. So we have eased the business. So, have we made the security in a proper way so that a common man or person who takes a financial instrument, okay, is his money secure? Is also a question mark. So, if you
Mhm.
look at all these aspects, we have grown. One thing is very sure and common, we have grown. Financial industry itself per se has grown maybe 35% as you said. But there are lot of areas which needs to be seen. Few I had already mentioned, and RBI per se as a hawk eye and as a financial regulator have been quite prompt, and in terms of various notification they have been trying to arrest whatever negativity is there in this sector. I think that is how I will sum it up.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Asit. Bagisha, what is your point of view? How is these changes shaping up HR's involvement in NBFC and what kind of key drivers that you see?
So I agree with what Asit was talking about, all these trends, and I think COVID added a lot of fuel to the fire. And post COVID also, because India has become a hot cake for startups, there are a lot of startups also. While competition was immense in BFSI earlier, also pre-COVID times, in places like Mumbai and Delhi, for even you would have seen there are so many companies. In fact, my office is in Worli, and there are so many banks and non-banking finance companies. But nowadays, now there are so many digital startups which have started approaching customers. The power of data has become extremely important, and with
Correct.
the players like Amazons and Swiggies of the world entering into the co-branded space, they have access to huge data, which BFSI never had. So because we were very physical in nature, so we could only reach up to an to a number which was not enough. So now that there is other way to reach the customer, which is also a challenge for companies like us, which are uh, which have been traditionally very successful in this. But also there is a new age of customers which needs to be taught. There is a lot of focus on financial literacy in the company right now, and there is a lot of focus in the budget also on improving people's credit capability, and they
Correct.
get finances easily. So all of that impacts HR as well. So now, when you look at HR trends, the quality of manpower which is required is a lot different from what we used to hire earlier. With a banking kind of a system, with branch banking kind of a system, which earlier used to exist, people were always keen on hiring people who were locally available, who had local connects, networks,
Correct.
and who would be traveling here and there with a lot of travel. But with digitization, the capability is different. Plus, the location of the person may not be that important all the time. For certain roles, for certain segments. So there is a focus on having different segments of customers, and which one you are targeting as an organization, and based on different sets of segments of customers and product line, your manpower will be very very varied, and the kind of uh, facilities, benefits, support that they would need is also different, which HR has to take care of, in terms of what kind of instruments, what kind of physical assets, laptop, desktop, you know, mobile phone capability, what kind of RAM the mobile phone should have so that it can
Correct.
support 25,000 applications, because 20,000 even I have personal ones on the phone. So but HR has to be, and the IT team has to be cognizant of the fact that how much is the capacity. So all of these things are also coming into the scope of when we do our human resource planning at this point of stage in any organization, because you have to take care of all of these aspects as well. And I think the dynamism of capability building is creeping in. So if your frequency of training was XYZ earlier, now it has to be 5x of that, because it is
Correct.
changing very fast outside as well as inside the organization. So
Correct.
these are some of the challenges which has to make a HR team very, very agile in whichever organization it is.
Yeah, in fact, I would agree with you to both of you actually to a great extent that of course regulatory impact is there, and this requires. Honestly, on a personal note, I didn't even know that for debt collection also the agent has to be a certified agent. I didn't even know this. Uh, and talking about Bagisha, you're talking about the trainings. So nowadays, not only industry training, that is, say for example, debt collection, now you need training about or knowledge about the digital platforms that you have, right? So that actually requires a lot of engagement from HR side also. Thanks so much, Bagisha,
When
for this
you
point of
brought
view.
in engagement, which I had missed out, I think the way of engagement also is changing a lot, because
Correct, correct.
the Gen Z entering the population, their ways of engaging is very very different, and we need to continuously evolve on those lines, while keeping in mind that you can't do overdo and you can't
Correct.
underdo, so there has to be an optimum balance between both.
Correct. This question actually, Bagisha, this point that you brought about Gen Z, it brings me to another interesting aspect of gender diversity. So, you know, our LFPR that is in India is about 35 to 40%.
Yeah.
In developed countries, it is about 70%. Okay. Worldwide, if you look at the world average, it is 50%. So India has, grown very well, very fast in terms of gender diversity in workplace. However, it is below the world average, global average, right?
Yeah.
So, especially for NBFC, from your perspective, what is the kind of gender diversity you see? I would say you can divide this question into a part of your core employees and contract employees, plus the traditional workforce that is maybe 30 plus and the Gen Zs. So, what kind of gender diversity you see, and what are the steps from your perspective, your experience to increase this diversity?
So I'm very passionate about diversity, so I would jump in and you know
Okay.
uh, see generational population by the sheer nature of business automatically gets managed. We can't stop a Gen Z from entering a workforce because that's the nature. Millennials will become bosses, supervisors. They have to hire fresh talent, so automatically their percentage increases, and after some time, new generation will come up and certain population retire. So that is always maintained as a healthy mix in the organization because we value experience as well as we value young talent at the same time. So
Correct.
that may not require so much effort because India is a young country at this point of time, but it requires experience at the same time and expertise. Um, Gender diversity, of course, requires a lot of push, and not BFSI. BFSI is still better equipped in this because they have a well connected, managed branch structure. Um, of the SBIs of the world where they have proper branches, and there are certain jobs which may require people to have a safe kind of a work
Work
environment.
environment. Correct.
All the people who have to travel into the field is where the trouble starts in terms of
Correct.
gender diversity, because we can change our organization but we cannot change the country instantly. And there are
Correct.
certain places, yeah, which are not very safe for women, infrastructure wise, safety point of view, hygiene, availability of good quality washrooms. All of that is a challenge, and you can't demand a customer to keep a hygienic washroom for your employees because they go there for business or collection perspective, while we can manage all that in our office, in our branches. So that is one area where uh, most of the companies which have a lot of employees operating outside branch will have difficulty. Uh, but what will work, I think, is to build a lot of resilience in this space, because some of the challenges is also about mindset. Um, Even though country is developed, a lot of mindset has not developed in that same rate. Families still feel it's not safe, while the city has become slightly safer, in certain geographies, and we are still with that mindset that women can do certain roles, they can't do certain roles. So doctors, nurses, teachers are stereotyped roles, and saleswomen is not seen as a good role. So unless we don't start hiring women in sales and collection roles in BFSI, we can't increase the percentage beyond a point, because sales and collection is the bread and butter.
Bagisha, I still would want to, delve into this particular aspect of Gen Z versus the traditional. Of course, you suggested that traditionally people have grown step by step to become managers and so on and so forth. So, what is the kind of, ratio that you see of Gen Z coming into your fold? Is it the percentage has increased or it has remained the same?
No, it is of course going to increase. No, every year you will get a fresh set of 21, 22-year olds. They will enter the workforce. And for companies like us, or any company which is sales driven, will actually depend on frontline sales. So frontline sales mostly starts with very, very young people who are in the age group of 20 to 25. So that percentage is going to increase a year on a year. So that will
Mhm.
not reduce or stay constant. That will always increase.
Asit, what are the steps your company is taking, and what are your point of views about increasing uh, gender diversity in, say, NBFC or BFSI sector?
So, looking at the company, the banks per se does not have much challenge in terms of, actively working in gender diversity, because we have a very healthy, gender diversity, both per se for a, third party, regulated staff, as well as in our own staffing. So give a little business perspective. I think HR perspectives are already covered by Bagisha. So
Mhm.
if you see, so I'm giving a very broader perspective. So if you divide India into two parts, so you have North India, and say starting Maharashtra, you have the South India. So the southern part of the country is now, contributing around 60 to 70% of the GDP, if you see per se.
Mhm.
And there, the number of women folks contribution to a bank account is more than what a men have in their bank account. So it shows, I mean, that is how it shows that, woman power is increasing in power,
Correct, correct, correct,
increasing in spending capacity. And if you
correct.
want to take India, ahead, you need to support with everything. And yes, we do have right from, today's private company to a PSU. There are a lot of policies in terms of HR which are supporting, in the various, aspects of a woman's life cycle, right from, maternity, which is already there. So I'm
Correct,
talking about very basics. So now
correct.
people have gone ahead with exam leaves. So parents, a lady whose son or a daughter is having exam, so we do have that. So we are giving, 5 days leave as per their this thing. This is, over and above the regular leaves. So
This
that
is
is how the trend is shifting. And if you are not with the trend, you can very well understand where you are.
correct. This is an awesome point, actually. I remember both my parents, when I was a kid, both my parents were working. And as a kid, when you are taking exams initially in your, studies period, first you're unaware, but then you start getting results year after year, and you say, oh, I'm not doing good, or I can improve. You need somebody or the other at home to, guide you. Uh, so this actually, brings me to the next question that I had in mind. It's about infant attrition. So, Asit, if I start from you, what kind of, infant attrition that you see? Again, I'll divide this question into two parts: core employees, contract employees, Gen Z, and the older folks, so to say. What kind of infant attrition you are seeing, and what kind of steps organizations can take to address that kind of challenge?
So I two, three aspects which adds on to this. So I'll start with the contractual employees. So contractual employees, when they come into employer from where they are deputed, they are basically neither the employee of the contractor nor the employee of the place where he has been deputed. There is a wide gap.
Correct.
So basically, when they start, so we did a lot of work on this infant attrition, how you call it. So it's a pain point for a staffing to get those kind of manpower. It is also a pain point for a client like me. If I get keep on getting a new staff every 2 months, the productivity anyways is muted for say
Correct.
about first 30 days or 45 days. So I have that virtual manpower which is there in the board. However, I'm not getting any productivity. So it is
Yeah.
a losing game for both of us. Okay. If
Yeah.
it is not 60 to 90 days, the staffing company, though they are providing manpower, they are not getting any money. So it's a big loss for the staffing industry also. So
Correct.
it is a loss proposition for both. So in our company, what we did is we started a strong onboarding system. I think onboarding system is which has developed over a period of time. So when I started in the contract industry, there was nothing called onboarding. Even paperwork was not properly done, and even if you ask some papers from the contractor, they will never ever able to provide you. Nor even the employer where he's working used to keep anything. If something
Mhm.
happens, God forbid, nobody is like able to answer anything. So from there, I mean, though digitization has helped us in last 7 8 years, and you have proper records and proper data. So again, coming
Mhm.
back to the onboarding. So onboarding is not only that only the paperwork. So with product knowledge, so we kind of have a 2 to 3 days structured training when we have a batch entering. So that has reduced our attrition a lot. And
Wow.
also we are monitoring the performance of these people the first 3 months under microscope, keeping a buddy. So all those steps have already our improvement shows around 10 to 15% as of now. However, the growth of industry is such rapid. The people who are managing this contract staff are also moving out. So to keep that consistency is a constant challenge. I think here in both, contractor as well as the employer, both have to work hand in hand to, tide through this situation, because it's a loss-making situation or loss-making proposition for both of them.
Correct. Correct.
And I think Bagisha also spoke about training. So,
Correct.
yeah, periodic
Yeah.
training, a refresher, and I think it has to be physical, it has to be digital also, because frontline staff, they know how to mobilize it digitally. So they will just scroll through doing something else or some other work, and they will
Correct.
not, and when you give exam, somebody else will appear in the exam. So all those things are there. So it has to be a mix of both classroom and
Digital.
digital this thing. Lot of
Awesome. So
enablers.
very, very good point that you talked about that, having a physical plus digital presence. I I I don't understand how difficult it would be for you people because you are working pan India to have physical trainings for them. I mean, let's bring in Bagisha. Bagisha, how do you manage, because you are also pan India? How do you manage, having training programs which are integrating your new hires plus giving you productivity plus they are effective? There's so many things that, training is just one aspect, but there's so many outcomes or impacts associated with it. How do you manage
Yeah.
it?
Yeah. So while of course we rely a lot, as Asit said, on virtual trainings, e-learning modules, because there is a recurrence of a lot of content. So there, of course, we have a very strong e-learning platform, and we we have a team which keeps on constantly creating based on the need. But there is physical training, presence of physical training, but not necessary to go and do training in 1400 plus branches which we have. So training, of course, happens, but as a way of refresher, now we also engage in a lot of new age content in terms of having memes,
Oh,
learning memes,
good
short
one.
reels, which help you reinforce the learning post the virtual instructor led or in person or an e-learning based training, which is slightly longer. So the key messages are reinforced through these mediums as well, because the organization now has a lot of Gen Zs. So we
Mhm.
don't want to lose out on their interest level, which is not more than 30 seconds. So we have started
Correct.
engaging on that also in the past.
So it's
Uh,
kind of bite-sized information like an Instagram post or reel. Huh?
yeah, and very, very innovative. And, they'll make you laugh and also uh, very, very precise, short message uh,
Correct. Correct.
at the same time. Yeah.
Correct. Uh, So I was talking to one of our clients in consumer durable sector, and what was very interesting for me to know, not just consumer durables but healthcare also. And what came out very as an interesting point was that they have training modules, but simultaneously they have a gamified training model in which you are either a leader or you are in top 10 and so on and so forth. So it gives a competitive spirit also to people. What are you people also doing something like that?
Yeah, I think that existed earlier also.
Mhm.
leaderboards and games and championships, and they become more intense as your year starts to close, because that has been the norm in all sales driven organization. Of course, with digitization improving and with that coming of AI and all, what happens is now you can automate a lot of these things in a better, more, uh, in a very good user interface. A lot of algorithms which will help you customize it to the needs and personas of the people which your employees are. So I may like to choose a female warrior, for example, for myself, because I relate to her, and somebody would relate to a Marvel character. So all of that innovation is of course happening, but this entire leaderboard concept and championship concept existed. uh, Always it existed. Of course, it was on papers and then Excel, and then it became system based, and now it has become extremely sophisticated. But we
Mhm.
do. That's I think
Okay.
schools also do these days these things.
Correct. So now, going back to Asit, you talked about, the challenges of staffing or temporary talent that you have. So what kind of demands that you are seeing, and what kind of skills do you see that you need to have as a temporary worker for different kinds of roles? Oh, and what are their career progression? If you can put some light on that, that would be great.
Sure. So, I mean, so previously we had, so talking about career, progression first. So first we had people who were in the temp role joining in, who were good performer over a period of, couple of years with, some kind of validation, with some kind of tests and, their performance. We used to take them on roll. So now, however, to also facilitate the number of employees and keeping it optimum with coming up of digitization, we have also made some kind of layers in the temporary bit, and once you cross those layers, you can move into the permanent staff or on the roles of the company, how we call it. So, in terms of skills, if you say so, only skill which we require is communication skill, the presentability, decency, and an open mindset of learning. I think the way things are moving and little bit, now you don't have. So previously, when you used to, launch any of the, softwares, you used to have some kind of a book or something. Now apps are, self only, because you operate 100 apps yourself. So there is no manual, no teaching which is required. So, that kind of open mindset where you can operate whatever new, apps come in.
Mhm.
So I
And what
think that is what is required. And to be very honest, our hit ratio for a, big batch of interview is about, say, 20-25%. So, around 75% who come in for an interview actually, gets rejected. And we have a very simple test. So once we have a face-to-face interview, and we have a small test which is basic English, basic mathematics.
And what kind of roles are you looking for, say, in next couple of months, or maybe for next financial year? What kind of roles you see that would be dominating the NBFC sector?
So I don't see any, drastic change. So currently, so there are two roles. One is, the front end, that is your sales associates who, move door to door or bank to bank or branches to branches. So that sales role. So that is one. And on the back of the house, some operational roles in terms of, data entry, MIS, and support roles. That is what I see. No such drastic changes. Yes, there'll be lot of things which will come on as an add-on layer to all these people. Specifically, people who are at the operation or the back end is with the help of tech, with the help of AI, so that the data sanctity remains. That is how I see, and these are very basic. So no learning or no actual understanding of any IT software or infrastructure is needed over here. This is only pure operational, and it can be learned in like a few minutes to few hours.
Great. Okay, great. So, Vagisha, what kind of roles you see are, in your organization that are taking traction? Plus, how are you planning the career progression for these people, especially for temporary staff? Because as Asit said that, there is a lot of attrition at that level.
Yeah, I think most of the point Asit covered, because that's same for all the organization, because that's natural line of thinking that who uh, whosoever performs well in those role, there is an absorption plan defined for each based on the kind of roles and the productivity requirement. After a certain tenure, people will be looked at and evaluated on those parameters, and then you absorb, of course, with the right attitude, behavior, and learning agility that they show. And once they are part of the regular workforce in the organization, then they will follow that career pathing. So I think that is same for all the organizations. It may here and there vary in terms of someone would plan to absorb after 6 months, someone would plan to absorb after a year, someone would plan to absorb after 2 years. So and the productivity expectations would be different, but the philosophy remains same.
Awesome. Understood. So, since we're talking about productivity, actually, this is one last and very important part question that I have. Uh, we assume that automation helps increase productivity. Point one. Is this assumption correct? And second thing is, what are the key skills that are in demand in coming years?
So I think automation per se, if I so I cannot see what is there in the future. However, I can extrapolate whatever was there in the past, to how the future is going to come. So if you see, we have this IT revolution, and from there we have evolved as a country where we were, considered as a poor third world country to a, name which, is reckoned now everywhere.
Yeah.
So that is how IT has, brought us over there. In how, 90s, prior we opened up to the world. Before that, there was license Raj. If you see, compare both of them.
Yeah.
I'm sure this AI digitization is going to take us to the next level. So, from the time what we see in the history is, the improvement in terms of our lifestyle per se, basically what you can see from outside, has it has bettered over a period of time. So that is what the automation is going to get for us in the coming time. And by the day you will get improved products, all whatever
Mhm.
it can be, virtual or physical product, you will get better designs, better in terms of functionality, better in terms of resilience. That is what you are going to get. And definitely there will be some skills which will come. They're already there across the internet, if you see, uh, so AI, digitization, all those things will already come. Data scientist kind of a roles, but I'm sure there will be some of the traditional roles which will still have high demand, because whatever be the automation level, you require that kind of human intelligence to tide through those situations. And that is something called a jugaad. I mean, if you see your Indian managers, why they are so successful abroad is because we are so resilient. We have how we have spent our childhood, what kind of issues, problems we have faced, and how we have come out. That is what will take us to that the next level. And any kind of automation, AI is not going to capture that kind of intelligence and put it into play. So I think
So
that is how
it's
it
it's
will
very
be.
contrarian, Asit, by the way, if you look at it, that everyone is talking about automation and reducing human intervention and so on and so forth. So I mean, happy to listen to this contrary opinion, but let's listen to Bagisha. Bagisha, what is your point of view on Asit's statement that automation is helping, but still we need human intervention?
Yeah. So I agree to that point. If automation done right, with right understanding of users' requirement, of course, it will reduce manual intervention in that job, but it will create certain new jobs. So I'll give you the
Correct.
example of DigiYatra, for example. Now,
Mhm.
DigiYatra has actually removed a lot of manual work, on the
Correct.
airports, and you don't need, but you still need certain people because people don't know how to put their face over there, where to stand.
Correct.
Sometimes it is not scanning, so it may not reduce human intervention fully, but there will be certain requirement. uh, but then to create that interface, you had a huge IT team which
Correct.
created that infrastructure, physical plus manual, that was not existing earlier. So the nature of job has changed, but it doesn't mean that beings are not required. Digiyatra application required hundreds and thousands of people to work from infrastructure point of view, from IT point of view, from enablement, service, maintenance, and then scaling it to all the airports. But of course, the person standing there, if I see as a lane man, I'll feel, oh my God, there used to be 12 people working on gates. Now there are only three gentlemen on three gates. Jobs, but
Correct.
has created also. And it's not about
Correct.
AI, it is about automation. So nature
Correct.
of job is changing and the quality of work is changing. So a lot of low quality work will actually transform into higher quality jobs. So people need to upskill themselves. They need to get in-depth capability. They need to understand whatever domain they are working on. That has to be of finesse. Because if you are low skilled in future, I don't think so. There will be so much for you available in the
Career
market.
progression will be a
Yeah,
problem.
yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
there will be always this fear of losing out.
Correct. So very
That's the
interesting
problem.
points that we discussed, Bagisha and Asit. Thank you so much for your point of view. Uh, you know, some of the pointers or takeaways for me had been like this, that of course, regulatory environment is changing. Of course, digital transformation or digital innovations are happening. And of course, there are consumer behavior change. But with that, also, not just BFSI, but NBFC has evolved multifold. If you look at the growth in last 5 years itself, it's multifold. I mean, CAGR of 20+% in different sectors is phenomenal, right? So there are a lot of these changes actually aiding into the growth of NBFC sector. Plus the other point that was very interesting, and Bagisha is actually one of the proponents of gender diversity. So I would want to tell you that we have released a report on NBFC, particularly on NBFC, which is called Driving Financial Inclusion: The Role of Temporary Workforce in NBFC. And based on our own data, because we manage about 3 lakh associates, temporary staff across India. NBFC is one sector which is actually bringing the maximum temporary workforce also for women, in terms of women participation. Of course, not to the great extent of 35-40%, but compared to what we have our temporary staff in certain different sections, NBFC is 2x that section that way. So we have released this report, and there were quite interesting insights from there also, that how the dynamics are changing, how attrition is happening. In fact, if you look at 2 years back, the attrition used to be about more than 100%. It has relatively come down, and
Right,
this
right.
happens with,
So Praveen, you
yeah,
need
Siti.
not be, very apologetic. It is 100 plus, but it is 110% if you see annual figures. Correct, you are.
Correct,
You can go
correct,
ahead.
correct.
Yeah.
So, Praveen, I
And in
have a
fact,
question to you.
yeah, yeah.
If you look at gender in terms of infant attrition or attrition in your entire database, does gender play a role over there? Are there insights which shows that it is different for men and women?
Correct. Oh, very, very good question, Bagisha. And we actually do that kind of intersection analysis also, not just on attrition, but put together educational qualification and locality also. Yeah. So we have seen problems where attrition, especially if I talk about, where, at times the girl gets married and she has to go somewhere or migrate. or maybe because of family related requirements, be it taking care of kids and so on and so forth, because these are very, very low wage earning people. So they have to take care of kids themselves. So in those kind of cases, we have of course seen attrition growing as far as female or woman participation is concerned. However, what we will do is we'll share the report with you, and you can go through in details about what kind
Yeah.
of analysis we have done and come out with the insights, findings, and recommendations. Uh, Again, to just to come back to the point, what interesting that I found today is from your point of view of how you people are training, bite-sized information, maybe kind of a meme, so that your staff is engaged, they are learning also, and they are becoming productive faster. Because productivity is one thing that is key for growth, especially in the sector which is very, very leveraged. Uh, so these are some interesting pointers that I have taken from today's discussion. And again, as I said, that IEF is more about employment, employability, and ease of doing business. We have covered all the aspects. Employment, wherein we talked about attrition, women participation, plus gender diversity, and so on and so forth. Uh, then employability, of course, in terms of training, and ease of doing, how regulations are actually impacting the way we do business. So thank you so much for joining us, Bagisha and Asit today. It was a great pleasure talking to you, and I would look forward to hosting you sometimes in our physical events.